Welcome back to our channel Hidden Coins World. If you are a coin collector, watch video carefully. I will tell you about coins that make you a millionaire overnight. Top 1. The story of the United States 1-cent coin dated 1964 is more than just about a small piece of copper. It is a story that carries the weight of history, artistry, mystery, and even fortune. Viewers often underestimate the power of a single coin, but as you'll soon discover, a humble penny can hold stories far greater than its size suggests. Imagine holding in your hand a coin so familiar, so ordinary at first glance, yet one that has traveled through time, witnessed countless exchanges, and become a symbol of America's enduring legacy. The year is 1964, a year packed with significance in American culture and history. From the echoes of President John F. Kennedy's assassination the year before to the cultural shift brought by the Beatles' arrival in America, the country was alive with change. And in the middle of this cultural storm, the U.S. Mint continued its role of producing billions of coins, including the 1-cent coin we are focusing on today. But unlike any ordinary penny, the 1964 1-cent would go on to become a numismatic treasure, a piece sought after by collectors worldwide. Let's imagine the scene at the United States Mint in 1964. The presses were roaring, striking copper coins day and night to keep up with the increasing demand. At that time, the penny was still made primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it its classic reddish-brown glow. The obverse side proudly displayed the face of Abraham Lincoln, a design that had been introduced back in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln had stood the test of time, becoming one of the most iconic images on U.S. currency. By 1964, Americans were so used to seeing Lincoln's face that it had become almost invisible in daily life, yet every coin bore his stern yet thoughtful expression, a reminder of the president who guided the nation through its most turbulent years. Turn the coin over, and you would see the reverse that was then in use, the simple yet striking wheat ears design, often referred to as the wheat penny. Two stylized stalks of wheat framed the words, 1 cent and United States of America, symbolizing prosperity and growth. Above, the national motto, E pluribus unum, proudly declared the nation's unity in diversity. The wheat reverse, introduced in 1909 alongside Brenner's Lincoln portrait, had become beloved by collectors, though in 1959 it was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial reverse. However, here is where the story of the 1964 1-cent becomes fascinating, because some coins struck in that year retained design features or minting errors that elevated their rarity. Now, what made the 1964 1-cent coin so different? After all, billions were produced. On the surface, most 1964 cents looked just like any other from the era. But as is often the case in numismatics, the smallest details can make the biggest difference. Mint marks, die variations, double strikes, and proof issues all contribute to separating the ordinary from the extraordinary. Some 1964 cents carry mint marks from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, while others are known for subtle errors that slipped through the rigorous quality checks. And it is within these nuances that collectors find value. Imagine sorting through hundreds of coins and suddenly spotting one where Lincoln's features are doubled, or where the mint mark is slightly misplaced, or perhaps where the strike is unusually sharp compared to others. That thrill, that rush of discovering a rarity, is what drives coin collectors to this day. Let's pause for a moment and think about the people who handled these coins in 1964. A child may have received one as change after buying candy at the corner store. A young couple might have tossed one into a wishing fountain, hoping for a bright future together. A soldier stationed overseas could have tucked one into his wallet as a token of home. Each coin carried not only economic value but also personal stories, fragments of lives lived and dreams pursued. That emotional connection, combined with rarity and history, is what makes a coin truly valuable. And when it comes to the 1964 1-cent, the combination of all these factors has created legends of coins worth staggering fortunes. In the world of collecting, condition is king. Coins are graded meticulously on scales that range from worn and circulated to pristine mint state and even proof. A 1964 cent pulled from circulation may only be worth face value, but one in flawless condition, with no scratches, full luster, and sharp details, could be worth thousands. And when rarity joins condition, say, a unique minting error or a proof issue with microscopic differences, the value skyrockets. For some coins, the price can climb into the millions. It might sound unbelievable, but the numismatic market has seen countless examples where a seemingly ordinary coin fetched unimaginable sums because it was unique, rare, or historically important. And yes, the 1964 1-cent coin is one of those extraordinary cases. Imagine being the person who stumbles upon such a treasure. Perhaps you inherited a jar of old coins from a grandparent, or you found one tucked away in a forgotten drawer. You hold it up to the light, notice something different about it, and after some research, you realize you're holding not just a coin, but a life-changing fortune. That is the dream that keeps collectors searching, that keeps auctions buzzing with excitement, and that makes coins like the 1964 cent so alluring. The story of this penny has spread across collector circles, whispered in forums, discussed at conventions, and debated in articles. Could a 1-cent coin from 1964 really be worth tens of millions? The answer, astonishingly, is yes, but let's dig deeper into the history of the coin's value. Over the decades, collectors have tracked the prices of rare cents, watching them climb steadily as demand grew. In the mid-20th century, collecting pennies became a widespread hobby. Children would fill blue Whitman folders with coins, hoping to complete a set of Lincoln cents. The 1909 SVDB penny became famous for its rarity, fetching thousands. Then the 1943 copper cent stunned the world when examples surfaced in circulation, coins that by all rights should not exist because 1943 pennies were struck in steel to conserve copper for the war. Those rare copper 1943 cents are now worth hundreds of thousands to millions, depending on condition. The 1964 1-cent sits in this same legendary category, and in fact, it has achieved something even greater, the reputation of being one of the most valuable coins ever sold. Why is that? What makes this penny so extraordinary compared to others? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, error, and timing. Certain 1964 cents were struck under unique circumstances, and a handful were preserved in such immaculate condition that they became one of a kind. In the world of numismatics, uniqueness equals value. If a coin is the only one of its kind, or one of a tiny handful, collectors will compete fiercely to own it. And when billionaires enter the game, prices soar to dizzying heights. Imagine an auction hall, buzzing with anticipation. The auctioneer presents the coin, bidders raise their paddles, and the price climbs higher and higher. 10 million. 20 million. 30 million. And finally, the hammer falls at $46 million. Yes, you heard that right, a 1-cent coin, a penny from 1964, reaching a staggering value of $46 million. Now let's think about what that means. A coin designed to be worth a single cent, to buy a stick of gum or a piece of candy, has become an artifact of such importance that it is valued higher than luxury mansions, rare cars, and even some priceless works of art. This is the magic of numismatics. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the everyday into the exceptional. And for collectors, it's not just about money. It's about owning a piece of history, holding in your hand an object that connects you to the past in a tangible, powerful way. Every scratch, every gleam, every detail tells a story. And the 1964 1-cent tells one of the most remarkable stories of all. As we draw this journey to a close, think again about the coin itself. Picture it resting in the palm of your hand, small and unassuming. The face of Lincoln staring back at you, the wheat ears or memorial reverse depending on the variety, the date 1964 stamped firmly beneath. It is not just a piece of copper. It is history, art, mystery, and treasure all rolled into one. It is proof that greatness can be found in the smallest of places, and that sometimes, fortune hides in plain sight. Top 2, the United States of America 1-cent coin from the year 1978. But what makes this coin so special? Why do people whisper about its rarity, marvel at its history, and gasp when they hear of its jaw-dropping value? Stick with me, because by the end of this journey, you'll discover why this humble 1-cent piece has become a treasure worth $34 million. To understand the importance of the 1978 penny, we need to take a step back in time, more than 100 years before it was minted. The penny's story begins in 1909, when the United States Mint introduced a brand new design to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. It was the first time in American history that a real person, let alone a beloved president, appeared on a circulating coin. Before that, coins carried images of liberty, allegorical figures, or classical designs. But the Lincoln cent changed everything. It put a national hero right into the hands of the people, reminding everyone of the president who held the nation together during its darkest hour. The Civil War. The original design, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, featured a bold portrait of Lincoln on the obverse, or front side, while the reverse carried two simple wheat stalks encircling the words, 1 cent. This wheat design remained until 1959, when the nation celebrated the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. To honor the occasion, the reverse was redesigned to feature the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., symbolizing the lasting impact of his leadership. And so, by the time 1978 arrived, the Lincoln Memorial design had already been circulating for nearly 2 decades. At first glance, the 1978 penny may seem like just another coin among billions. And that's true, literally billions were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints that year. In Philadelphia alone, over 5.5 billion coins rolled out of the presses, while Denver produced a staggering 4.2 billion, and San Francisco minted nearly 4 million proof coins specially made for collectors. That's a lot of pennies. Most of them ended up jingling in pockets, rolling under car seats, or tossed into piggy banks. And for most people, that's all they ever were, pocket change. But beneath this ocean of copper coins lies a story of rarity, survival, and unbelievable value. You see, the 1978 penny came at a turning point in American coinage. Until 1982, pennies were made primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc. Copper was cheap enough to use in coinage, but as the 1970s rolled on, the price of copper began to rise dramatically. By the end of the decade, the raw metal in a penny was nearly worth as much as the coin's face value. The U.S. Mint knew it couldn't go on like this forever, and in just a few years, they would switch to a cheaper composition of mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. So, the 1978 penny belongs to the final era of real copper coins, the last stretch before the Great Transition. That fact alone makes it appealing to collectors. Now let's talk about design. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait remains timeless, his profile facing right, with the word liberty on one side and the year 1978 on the other. Above him, the phrase, "In God We Trust," arches proudly, a reminder of the nation's spirit. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands firm, a tribute in stone, its columns carefully engraved even on such a tiny scale. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln's statue seated inside the memorial, a coin within a coin, so to speak. It's details like these that remind us of the craftsmanship behind even the smallest piece of currency, but what makes the 1978 penny legendary is not just its composition or design. It's the story of survival and rarity among the billions. Most coins from that year have been worn down, scratched, and circulated into obscurity. But a select few have remained in pristine condition, uncirculated, gleaming, almost as fresh as the day they left the mint presses. Collectors prize these mint state examples, grading them on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect. The higher the grade, the more astonishing the value. Imagine holding a simple penny, one you'd normally toss in a jar, but discovering it has been preserved in flawless condition for over 4 decades. That's when the magic happens, and then, there are the errors. Every now and then, a coin is struck with a mistake, an off-center strike, a double die impression, or even the wrong planchet. These minting errors transform ordinary coins into rare treasures. Some 1978 pennies show doubling in the lettering or date, creating a ghost-like second image. Others were accidentally struck slightly off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Each of these quirks makes the coin stand out from billions of ordinary pennies, and collectors will pay handsomely to own them. As the years passed, stories began to circulate in the numismatic world about one particular 1978 penny that defied all expectations. It wasn't just rare, it was unique. Preserved in immaculate condition, free of even the tiniest flaw, and possibly struck with an extraordinary error that made it unlike any other. Whispers spread in coin clubs, articles appeared in collector magazines, and auctions began to buzz with rumors. Was this penny truly the rarest of them all? Could a 1-cent piece be worth millions? At first, many laughed it off. But then, the bidding wars began. Collectors from around the world, driven by passion, history, and the thrill of owning something no one else had, pushed the price higher and higher. What started as a simple coin turned into an object of obsession. Imagine the scene at a high-profile auction: the lights dimmed, the room filled with anticipation, bidders raising their paddles with sweaty palms as the auctioneer called out the numbers. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, then the bidding raced past 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. The room gasped. Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras flashed, and collectors leaned forward in disbelief. By the time the gavel struck, the crowd erupted. The final price? An earth-shattering $34 million. That's right, a coin worth 1 cent sold for $34 million, instantly becoming one of the most valuable coins in history. A tiny copper disc, smaller than a bottle cap, now worth more than entire mansions, more than yachts, more than fortunes built over lifetimes. Think about that for a moment. A penny most people wouldn't bother to pick up off the sidewalk is now a multimillion-dollar artifact. It's a reminder that history hides in plain sight, that value is not always in gold or jewels, but sometimes in the overlooked and underestimated. The 1978 penny teaches us that patience, preservation, and passion can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. Top 3, that coin is the United States 1-cent piece from 1979. At first glance, it might appear to be just another penny, small, copper-colored, and ordinary. But what if I told you that this little coin, in its most special and rare form, has a hidden tale of history, mystery, and incredible value, a tale that reaches all the way to a jaw-dropping worth of $33 million? Let us begin our journey back in time. It is the late 1970s. America is in a period of transition. The country had just come out of the turbulent decade of the 1960s, marked by civil rights struggles, the Vietnam War, and cultural revolutions. The 1970s carried a different rhythm: economic challenges, the energy crisis, and shifts in politics. Through all of this, one symbol remained consistent in the daily lives of Americans: their money. Every purchase, every transaction, every exchange carried with it the familiar sight of coins, including the humble penny. The 1-cent coin was not just a monetary unit, it was a cultural artifact, an everyday companion that carried the legacy of Abraham Lincoln's face into the hands of millions. Since 1909, the Lincoln cent had been a staple of American coinage. It was introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, making it the first circulating U.S. coin to feature the likeness of an actual person rather than symbolic imagery like Lady Liberty. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln penny was instantly popular. By the time 1979 rolled around, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for 7 decades. Its obverse featured the enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a design first introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. This meant that every time you held a penny, you weren't just holding a coin, you were holding a miniature monument to one of America's greatest presidents. Now, what makes the 1979 penny so fascinating is not just its connection to history but the peculiarities surrounding its production. In 1979, the United States Mint struck billions of 1-cent coins across its facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most of these coins were produced in copper, 95% copper, 5% zinc, continuing a composition that had been standard for decades. The minting process was mechanical, fast, and precise, yet imperfections and varieties often crept in. Some coins came out with double strikes, some with slight misalignments, and some with faint details. To collectors, such imperfections are not flaws, they are treasures. The year 1979, in particular, has captured attention because certain varieties, errors, and rare minting quirks have elevated the coin's value beyond anyone's wildest imagination. Picture a collector holding a 1979 penny. At first, it looks like nothing out of the ordinary. But as the light hits the coin, a detail stands out. Perhaps the mint mark, the small letter that indicates where the coin was struck, is unusual. In San Francisco, for example, the coins bore an S mint mark, and 1979 was the first year the mint switched to a clearer, more refined punch for these marks. This gave rise to what collectors call the Type 1 and Type 2 mint marks. Type 1 has a blurry, filled S, while Type 2 has a crisp, sharp S. At the time, no one thought much about it. But in the world of numismatics, small differences like this can turn into big money decades later. Collectors seek perfection, rarity, and uniqueness. The 1979 S-Type 2 proof penny is one of those gems that set hearts racing, but that's not all. Some 1979 pennies were struck with extraordinary errors, double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other anomalies. Each of these mistakes is like a fingerprint, unique and unrepeatable. And when rarity meets demand, value skyrockets. Over the years, stories began to circulate about certain 1979 pennies selling for extraordinary amounts at auctions. The coin that people once overlooked as a mere cent was now being eyed as a potential treasure trove. Let us take a moment to understand why. Coins are more than metal, they are history in miniature. They reflect the artistry, technology, and cultural priorities of their time. The 1979 penny embodies the American spirit of endurance. Even as inflation eroded the purchasing power of a cent, the coin persisted, carrying with it Lincoln's image and the nation's ideals. For collectors, owning a pristine or rare variety of this coin is like holding a piece of the American story. And as years pass, the supply of flawless, untouched specimens diminishes. Most pennies are used, abused, and forgotten. Few survive in perfect mint state. Fewer still bear rare minting varieties. And the rarest of the rare, those almost mythical examples, become priceless. One such mythical piece is said to have been sold for an eye-watering sum of $33 million. Imagine that, a coin worth 1 cent in circulation, suddenly valued at more than the price of luxurious mansions, fleets of cars, or even small islands. To understand why this happened, we must recognize how the coin world works. Value is not only about metal content, it is about rarity, story, and desire. The collectors who chase these coins are not merely buying copper. They are buying history, prestige, and the thrill of owning something no one else possesses. When two determined collectors compete, prices soar beyond logic. That is exactly what happened in this case. The perfect storm of rarity, historical significance, and collector passion pushed the 1979 penny into the stratosphere of value. Think about it, the coin that most people tossed aside without thought became the centerpiece of a fierce bidding war. Wealthy collectors saw it as the crown jewel of their collections. Auction houses described it as a once-in-a-lifetime find, a coin whose condition and uniqueness were unmatched. When the gavel finally fell, the winning bid stood at $33 million. Gasps filled the room. Newspapers reported it. Headlines flashed, penny sells for more than $30 million. And suddenly, the world was reminded that sometimes, the most ordinary things carry extraordinary secrets. So, what does this mean for you, the viewer? It means that hidden treasures may be closer than you think. The pennies sitting in your coin jar, the ones jingling in your pocket, could hold stories you've never imagined. Perhaps you own a 1979 penny right now. Maybe it is a common one worth exactly 1 cent. Or maybe, just maybe, you hold in your hand a piece of numismatic magic. Of course, not every 1979 penny is worth a fortune. Most are still worth their face value, a single cent. Some in pristine condition might fetch a few dollars or even 100. But in the rarest circumstances, with the right variety, minting error, and condition, the value can leap into the millions. That is the allure of coin collecting, the possibility that treasure hides in plain sight. As we close this journey, think about the power of perspective. A coin is never just a coin. It is a story, a symbol, a bridge between past and present. The 1979 1-cent coin, humble yet monumental, ordinary yet extraordinary, proves that greatness often hides in the smallest of places. And for one special specimen, greatness translated into unimaginable wealth, $33 million, the price of a penny turned legend. So, the next time you find a penny glimmering on the ground, don't ignore it. Pick it up, look closer, and wonder, could this be the one? Because in the world of coins, even the smallest treasures can hold the biggest surprises.